Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another deWiz webinar here on the deWiz Golf YouTube channel. Matt Lawrence alongside Marcus Westerberg, just the two of us flying today on today's webinar. We've had a couple of great guests recently. If you haven't checked out our latest webinar with VJ Singh, we recorded that prior to the Masters, where VJ was down in Augusta getting ready to play in the Masters as a former green jacket winner back in 2000. So if you haven't checked that out, go over to our YouTube page, and it's our latest webinar that we had with VJ Singh. But me and Marcus today, we're gonna, the next couple of weeks, we're gonna be talking about three key elements of deWiz and how it's gonna help every golfer improve their game and get better scores. And that's how deWiz is gonna help you hit the ball longer, hit it straighter, and hit it closer. Marcus, those are the three kind of key elements of our product. And today we're gonna focus on hitting the ball longer.
Yes, and this is really what deWiz helps you with. It's these three elements, and we're going to dive down into the app, how you're going to use it, how you're going to set your parameters on deWiz to work on these three things: longer, straighter, and closer. And like you said, Matt, today we're going to go longer.
So when you look at the deWiz app, there's a couple of key data points that you're going to look at when it comes to getting distance, whether it's off the tee, getting, 5-6 yards to your mid iron. And the first one we're going to look at is your length of backswing. And that's, one of the three kind of key features currently of the deWiz platform and of the deWiz app. So when you're looking at the length of backswing, Marcus, talk to me about how you can use that feature and how the length of backswing translates to distance, translates to club head speed, and how it's going to help get more distance using that length of backswing feature.
Yeah, so the length of backswing we measure with deWiz is the hand path arc, all the way from the start to turn. And that gives you a number in inches or centimeters of how long that backswing is. So the length of backswing could be described as drawing a bow. The farther I draw the string back, the more I load it. And when I let it go, you're going to get more speed. But in the golf swing, I like to say the length of backswing is more like free power, because you're making it longer, and without having to strain yourself, work harder, you're going to get increased club head speed. And club head speed is the main factor for longer shots. Of course, you need to impact the ball well, but club head speed is the basis for how far you're going to hit the ball. And the easiest comparison is a small chip shot where the club has very little club head speed, and a full drive, of course, where the club has a lot more speed, giving more ball speed and more distance.
And I remember when we talked to VJ, he used the example of, if you're throwing a baseball, and if I tell you, to launch one from center field, your arm's not going to go halfway back. You're going to extend all the way back and try to get as much power as you possibly can. And then using that chip shot example, it seems self-explanatory where, if I only go back this distance, I'm only going to hit the ball this far. But then when you think about a full swing and, you're thinking about hitting a driver off the tee, the difference between 2 to 3 inches may not feel like much, but ultimately that's the difference in 5, 10, 15 yards of carry distance. And that's the difference between you having a long iron into a green and a short iron wedge shot into a green. So talk to me a little bit about how you can kind of get yourself from for me, I'll use the example. I went from, when I first started working with deWiz, my backswing length for my driver was around 51 inches. And now I've kind of extended it out to 53, 54. It doesn't seem like a lot, but you'll be amazed at how much difference it actually does make.
Yes, so there's an individual element here that we need to stress as well, because it depends. Some are having extreme gains and some have less gains. But interestingly, I have not seen a single player who has not increased his or her club head speed with a longer backswing. I'm sure there are out there, but I'm yet to see it, and I've seen hundreds of deWiz users. For some people, and this is a good old adage in golf coaching, is just making a change to the length of backswing. It can feel extreme to increase it by 1 inch, and it can feel, like you said, just a little bit to increase it by 3-4 inches. However, it's making that stretch, that distance of acceleration down to impact longer, that helps you be able to gain more speed. So that is the basis of the length of backswing. But me as a coach, I did not think it would be so clear just increasing your length of backswing to gain club head speed and, of course, shot distance. I thought you had to do it the right way, but talking to a lot of coaches, talking to Vijay, and looking at the data, what we see is just make it longer, and you will gain speed. It's very interesting.
I wanted to ask you, because you've been around the game for a long time as a player, as a coach, you've seen the progression of technology in the sport of golf from, the initiation of launch monitors to now a product like deWiz that is able to measure something that has never been able to be measured before in a backswing length. When you think back to pre-launch monitor days, golfers have always wanted to hit the ball longer. They've always wanted to gain more distance. So what did the philosophy used to be in terms of, how am I going to gain an extra 5 to 10 yards off the tee? What was the initial philosophy from a coaching perspective? And maybe how has that changed over the last 15, 20 years and how you now incorporate it with deWiz?
Well, interestingly, because I've done a lot of research here, looking back into some older books about the physics of the golf swing, they mention this parameter of the longer backswing because it's pure physics. However, going back to your original question about what was like before, well, there was a lot of individual theories, but they all centered around speed, because somehow we knew that you had to get up club at speed, even though that term wasn't that popular back then, let's say in the 80s, early 90s. And there were various ideas on how to do it, always connected to the world number one, like how did Nick Faldo do it, Greg Norman do it, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and looking at individual mechanical elements of the golf swing, such as width, lag angle, separation, lower body, upper body, all of these things. And now, as we have more technology to be able to see what is going on, and clearly with launch monitors measure the club at speed, we can see more clearly that, yes, these are all important factors, but how can the club golfer utilize this in the most easiest way? And one of these ways is making the backswing longer. So yeah, long answer to your question, but there has been a lot of fiddling around in the dark since we didn't know. And now that deWiz has brought up the length of backswing measurement, it's quite interesting to see the data that comes out of various length of backswings related to speed and longer drives.
And another way you can look at the deWiz app and the deWiz platform to help gain more speed is your tempo numbers as well, and your start to impact time. You're going to get within the deWiz app, you're going to get your backswing duration, your downswing duration, the ratio between those two, as well as the start to impact time. And we've demonstrated it on our platform before, where it's again kind of seems self-explanatory, but now you're actually able to see it in numerical form immediately following a swing, where, if you have a 1 second start to impact ratio, you're going to get more speed than if you have a 1.2 start to impact ratio. So just talk to me a little bit about how kind of these numbers correlate to each other, what you see in your research with your students, where, maybe how does lengthening the backswing, how does that then translate to tempo numbers, and how all of those kind of work together to help gain more speed.
Yeah, interestingly, when I meet non-deWiz users, it's kind of intuitively how they can relate to these two factors that you brought up that really affect the speed of the club, the length of the backswing and the start to impact time, really how fast you swing the club. Because if you move over the same distance quicker, well, you have to be faster. Again, it's physics. It's easy for people to understand. And when you have the deWiz that measures in hundredths of a second and gives you, well, this was this much faster. Well, they can feel they are faster in the swing. But that of course, and it's another way to pick up speed and comparing the length of backswing, because you want to be as long but faster. I like to bring up 3 different ways of doing this. You have the old-time swingers of the club, like Fred Couples, Vijay Singh, Ernie Els, long swingers, and seemingly slow tempo. They don't have a slow start to impact, but they have a slower start to impact than, let's say, the faster swingers. We can look at Tony Finau, John Rahm, shorter swings, but very quick. And as we know, when Tony Finau makes it long, he goes way longer way higher club head speed. And then you can combine the two, fast swing, long swing. And that's Bryson DeChambeau and the long drivers. Bryson has an over 2-meter backswing. That's over 80 inches. And he returns back at the ball in 0.8 seconds. That's very, very fast. I urge you guys out there to try it. To return to the ball at 0.8 seconds, you need a lot of physical strength to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. Yeah, I can extend it back a good bit, but 80 inches in 0.8 of a second, that's not happening for me. So
You may
Marcus,
need to hit the gym more, Matt.
I probably should. I probably should. So Marcus, let's kind of leave the people with this from actually using deWiz. In setting your parameters, using the learning stimuli. What are some things that you do from a coaching perspective with your students when you're trying to help see those gains off the tee? How are some ways that you use deWiz with your students to help them out in that aspect?
The easiest way is just to hit a few normal drives, 3 to 5 shots, and see what is your length of backswing. Go into the deWiz app, set a minimum on that number, a minimum on your normal length of backswing. Use the learning stimuli as you usually do with your level. That should be slightly uncomfortable, but it works as a reminder to help your brain learn faster. And off you go. You set that limit. This is how far I need to go, and you need to pass that. And when you pass it, no feedback. And when you don't pass it, you will know immediately that you haven't completed your backswing.
And one last final question, because I was watching a video with Rory McIlroy earlier this week, and he was talking about I don't exactly remember what his exact numbers were, but he talked about how my cruising driver is generally 174, 175, and then I can get it up to 181, 182 ball speed if I really have to. So is that something that you work on maybe with yourself or with your students, where okay, like this is going to be your driver where I just need to get the ball in play, and we're going to be around that 52, 53 inch mark. And then you work on kind of that secondary swing where it's like, okay, we're a par 5, we have an open up fairway, and we can really go get after it. Is that something that you really work on with the deWiz, or is it more of, just, this is just how you're going to get longer on your basic swing?
Yes. I like to see my elite players have three gears in their driver. The first gear is what we call a stock shot. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be straight, fairly low. So the backswing is slightly shorter, but the swing is definitely slower. Then you have gear 2, and that's the normal drive. Backswing is longer than gear 1 and quicker. And then you have gear 3, which is way longer and way quicker. And that's in today's terminology, the bomb, the big bomb.
All right. Well, Marcus, thanks so much for the time. I think a lot of people learned a lot today about how they can use deWiz to hit the ball longer. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to talk about how deWiz can hit it straighter as well. Hit it longer, hit it straighter, hit it closer. Do all that, and you're going to be a better golfer, and you're going to have more fun on the golf course, and you're going to lower those scores as well.
Looking forward to the season, and good luck, everybody. Thanks, Matt.